Hello. So this is a low budget short film / documentary that I'm working on for my friend. And by the time I'm done with it, I'm estimating that I would have only spent $30 creating it. I'm not the richest filmmaker in the world, so I do like and enjoy me some low budget filmmaking. But I also like for my low budget filmmaking to look as expensive as possible. So in this video, I'm going to be going over some tips and tricks on how to achieve the most expensive looking low budget films that you can make. Let's get into it. Hi, hello. How's everybody out there doing today? It's of course your boy Volandis. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the secret to making any low budget film look a little bit expensive. Now, if you're a returning viewer and you haven't been able to tell by now, I personally love me some indie filmmaking. I love me some low budget filmmaking. I love me some filmmaking where people just pick up a camera, use the resources that they have, and go out and film stuff, because that's inspiration for me to do those exact same things. And in my personal opinion, I feel like there's always a way to take something that's low budget and make it look like it has some production value, which is something that I personally try to do within all of my videos. So everything that I tell you guys today will be taken from experiences that I have had and the things that I try to do within my videos to make them look like they're a little bit more expensive than what they actually are. Now, I know that some of you guys are probably thinking that it's easy for me to say because I have an FX3 and all these other cameras, but I do want to point out and let the record reflect that I built my career up and this YouTube channel up by using smaller and more affordable cameras. And I've also have done more movies and short films that I've ever done with those cameras than I have done with the FX3s. And some of those videos have hundreds of thousands and millions of views. So it's possible. So I hate to break it to you, but these tips and tricks aren't going to involve cameras and lenses, because I feel like there's other things that's more important to getting your production value up before you even get to the camera or lens that you're going to use. And also, just because you use an expensive camera does not mean your videos are going to look expensive. And just because you use a more affordable camera doesn't mean your videos are going to look cheap. I also do want to mention that if you haven't watched my video on how to make everything cinematic, you should go over and watch that, because a lot of that stuff involves this stuff that we're talking about today, just kind of adding on to it. So yeah. Now, clearly gear is a big factor in how things are going to look in the end, but I do want to say that if you can't afford gear, you can't afford to buy new lenses, you can't afford to buy a new camera, some of these things may be worth investing in instead of investing in a new camera, a new lens for the time being. So one thing that can up the production of any film is its location. Location scouting is probably one thing that I spend most of my week doing. Even if I'm shooting a video, I'm going to shoot a video, I'm going out with friends to have a drink, I'm going out with friends to hang out, I'm always in my mind remembering spots and thinking about ways I can come back to certain spots later. Sometimes I go out with a clear idea of where I want to shoot, and I go out and I look for that specifically. So even me, but a lot of the times when people are watching these videos, they're looking at the location in which these videos are being shot, and they're forming opinions about what's going on in the video based on the location in which these videos are shot. And when people make and shoot videos at locations where normally we don't see and we don't get to access every single day, like gas stations, hotels, stores, and subconsciously, whether you pay to use that spot or not, people know that these spaces aren't necessarily accessible every single day. So you have to put some form of production value or some form of effort into getting this location. For example, with my anamorphic video that I made, I wanted to shoot at some locations that people aren't necessarily allowed to shoot at just every single day, especially in this manner. And to show that these scenes were thought out about just a little bit more, because honestly, you can't control lighting in there. You can't really control where you're shooting. You can't really control a lot of the things that go on in there unless you got permission from someone to shoot in there at a certain time or day or whatever the case may be. But if you're just going to show up to a place and shoot, you're probably not going to have all the resources that you need, which is a lot of times what I do. But at the same time, if you just go in and ask maybe the manager or the owner of whatever place you're shooting at, if you can take like 5 to 10 minutes to get some videos in there, you won't get in anybody's way and all these things, maybe offer them some money if they're not really vibing with it. When I was making an anamorphic video and I was shooting in the liquor store, I actually asked the guy if I can shoot in there for 20 minutes. And he told me that I didn't even have to ask, and legally he couldn't tell me that I couldn't. But regardless, I like to be respectful here and there. You know what I'm saying? I don't really like to just assume I can do things. So I asked, and I feel like some of those shots were some of my favorite shots from that video. Now, of course, there are places that you can shoot at for free, but keep in mind that the location of these videos and where you're placing your subject within these locations is a big part of how your video is going to look. For example, I shoot these videos at home, but I picked the room that makes the most sense for these videos, that look the best, that has the best angle in which I can shoot at. And every single time that I go into a space or a room, I'm always looking at where I should place my camera that makes the most sense for the highest production value of that video. And that goes into other stuff like lighting, compositions, and all of those things as well. Now, I know you guys hear it all the time, how important story is, how important telling stories are, and why that's the most important thing in filmmaking outside of all these other things. And that's very true. Now, regardless of what camera I was shooting with, whether it was the FX3 or my phone or a handy cam, I always did my best to try to tell a story within whatever video I was making. Because to me, and in my opinion, it's easier to look past things that aren't super high quality when the storyline is pretty decent. For example, the short film that I made called No Choice, that short film isn't the best quality. It isn't shot with the best camera. It doesn't even have the best lighting or all these other things that make videos super high quality, but that video has almost 3 million views on YouTube, and it is still being watched till this day, and I made it a couple years ago. A lot of people in the comments don't comment on anything except the story. That's the only thing that they're talking about. Nobody's talking about the roll off from what's in focus to what's not in focus. Nobody's talking about the lenses or camera that it was shot on. Nobody's talking about the lighting or anything. If I look at those comments, everybody's talking about the story and just that. And for those of you who don't know, I watch a lot of movies, from large budgets to no budget to in between budgets. I watch a lot of movies, and I've seen a lot of movies with a big budget where the storyline is just so bad. And I've watched movies with zero budget and little budget where the storyline was amazing. So a lot of the times I like to invest in my storylines. I like to invest in a lot of these things that I'm talking about in this video today, so the story can be better. And a lot of the things that may not be perfect can be overlooked or might be overlooked by some people because the storyline is decent. Even within these little YouTube videos, I try to do just that. The next thing I will say that's super important to upping the quality of your videos is intention and commitment. A lot of people respect commitment and intention. I'm one of those people. If you're gonna dive into something and you're gonna do something, just do it. And you can tell when people aren't sometimes fully committed or aren't fully on board with what they're doing, which as a viewer makes it harder for me to be fully committed and fully invested in what you're doing. Whether I'm shooting a fake documentary, a short film, a video portrait, a video of me making breakfast or cleaning my house, whatever the case may be, I make sure that I fully put all of my effort into every single thing that I do, and I don't half step, because when you half step, you leave valuable things out for the viewer to grasp onto and to connect with. If I'm shooting out in the rain, I'm gonna wrap my camera up and make sure that I'm shooting out in the rain, because that's what I'm doing. I'm not gonna shoot from like my car so my camera doesn't get wet or do something that kind of makes it not as immersive or fulfilling as it should be. Now the next thing, and I'm gonna touch on this real quick because it's a no-brainer, but lighting is a big factor in making things look better. You can have whatever camera you want, you can have whatever recording device that you want. If the lighting isn't good, it's not gonna look good. But you don't necessarily need to buy lights, because for all of my videos, probably 98% of my videos, I just use natural light and the light that's provided by things around the world. If you can afford lights and you want to invest in lights, and investing in lights may be cheaper than investing in a new lens for the time being or a new camera, I would say invest in lighting, because lighting is everything, and lighting is the thing that makes me super excited about watching something or recording something myself. But you can also just use the sun, but that also comes with being able to figure out the best places within a location that the lighting is the best and all those other things. So yes, of course lighting, but make sure you following some other steps to get the best lighting as well. So the next thing that I would say is probably editing. Now in most cases, for me, editing is probably my favorite part when it comes to making these videos or making short films or making anything. In editing is when you create your look for your videos and the color grading. You can control the light, you can control what's darker, what's lighter. You can control the pace in which someone is viewing a video. You can control cuts, you can control emotion, you can control almost every single thing. Actually, you control every single thing within the editing process after the video is done. If you don't have the most expensive camera or the most expensive lenses or any of these things, you can kind of gain some of that production value back within the editing if you can, you know, sit down and really just like kind of get into it. So editing is super important and it's one of my favorite things to do after I shoot a video. And last but not least, and one of the most important things, is to be creative. Filmmaking, like other artistic things, is one of those things where it's just endless, and it's also one of those things where it's so many things that people have already done, and it's up to filmmakers and artists to take some of those things and make them their own. And being creative goes back to all of these things. Finding locations, you can find creative locations, you can find locations that people haven't shot at or people don't normally shoot at. You can go to some of these locations at certain times of day that probably people wouldn't go to. You can use lighting to be creative, you can use compositions to be creative, you can use all of these things that we talked about, editing, to be creative and to do things differently and to stand out from other people. Because at the end of the day, we're all doing the same thing, but some people stand out from others because they're doing things differently and are being creative, and they're doing things in a way that not other people or not too many other people do the same exact way, or because they started a trend, or their editing is really good, or because they use lighting like nobody else, or whatever the case may be. Just being creative is probably the best way to up the production value and to get eyes on your work in general. And also, one last bonus tip: learn your camera. I personally don't care what you shoot with, whether that's your phone, Ari, Alexa, FX3. I don't care what you shoot with. As long as you learn your camera, you learn what your camera can do, and you learn what your camera is capable of, and you do the things to get the most out of your camera, you're always going to have a quality video, no matter what. I don't care what camera you shoot with. If you use it to the best of its abilities and do the things that's best for and within your camera, you're always going to get the best out of your camera. But yeah, man, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys got something out of it. As always, I like to thank you guys for revisiting my channel, viewing the video. Please leave a like. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, I'm not talking to you because you already did what you had to do, and I appreciate you and I love you to death. So with that being said, we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna go do shit, man. Hope you guys enjoyed it. You know the vibes. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Let's get it.